Yeah, so, but I'm sure more like, as most of you know, you just want to know like, how can I use blockchain in my business, or what is a cryptocurrency? Like, how do I invest in this? Because this is complicated. Like, I'm sure like that talk that we heard before, like, was extremely technical. Even I was, most of it was going over my head at that point. So from a simple point of view, like, how do I get into this, or how does this apply to me? Because everybody says, oh, it's going to change like how Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to like, do business, or even just how he gets around. But how? How does this apply? So basically, I'm here to talk about like just private blockchains, public blockchains, and cryptocurrencies, and I'm sure that you've seen from the previous boom in cryptocurrencies, like why that boom happened, what are all these like thousands of cryptocurrencies, and what you should be looking for when you invest in any of these things, and if you should be investing in any of these things at all, because I'm sure, as he believes, half of these cryptocurrencies are nonsense. Actually, I would say 99% of these cryptocurrencies are nonsense. And the next, trying to find the signal in the noise is the tough part. So I have two rules, basically. Never invest more than you're willing to lose, which is a basic rule for basically, just any stocks, bonds, or, real estate, or cryptocurrencies in this case. So yeah, don't invest more than you're willing to lose. And two, if you buy currencies, don't leave it on your exchange, because when it comes to cryptocurrencies, who owns the private keys owns the coins. So if you leave it on an exchange, then the exchange doesn't give you a private key to where you control the coins. Then they control your coins. Your money is in their hands. And I know people personally that have lost over $200,000 when exchange went insolvent. Most of these exchanges, even Coinbase, can get hacked. And I know Coinbase says that it's FDIC insured and all these things, but the Coinbase has a USD wallet which says, oh, we'll credit your account with dollars, and it credits and only that is FDIC insured. Your Bitcoins on Coinbase are not FDIC insured. If they're gone, they're gone. No one's going to get them for you. That's it. But so let's start with the basics here. One of the simple things we need to talk people have trouble understanding usually, but comprehensible, is price versus market cap. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, it makes you actually question how we look at value. As in, for example, why does a coin have value? And what is that value? How do we determine that value? Some people say, oh, Bitcoin is this price because it takes this much energy and effort to mine a Bitcoin, and therefore, but that's not true. Value is determined by whatever people are willing to pay for it, essentially. So if we look at this particular graph here, I got this slide here. So the price of Ripple now is $1. I mean, when I made this yesterday. So I don't know what it is now, but it's so volatile. It could be 50 cents for all I know. And the number of Ripple tokens there are currently right now are 39 billion tokens. And the market cap is $39 billion. So price into number of coins is your market cap. And the price of Bitcoin right now is 10,630, once again, yesterday. So I don't know, it's so volatile, it's hard to tell. And there's 16,878 Bitcoins right now, and 12.5 Bitcoins are made every 10 minutes, essentially, on each block that's mined. And the market cap is 179 billion. So you get that price. But the thing about price, and so people tell me oh, just tell me a coin that I should invest in, that I can buy it it's 10 cents, and I want it to go up to 10,000. That doesn't happen.
You need happen for you.
That's true. But so yeah, that happens very rarely, and that's really hard to do. And it's hard to tell which coin is going to do that. And one of the main determining factors in fundamental investing points is how many coins there are. So a coin for example, Ripple, let's go to the next slide here. If the market cap of Ripple grows to the size of what Bitcoin is today, the price of Ripple is only $4.60. It's not that much different than it was before. And if the price of Ripple was to go to $10,600, or the price of Bitcoin now, the market cap would be $414 trillion, which is 6 times the size of the global GDP in 2014. That is not happening. This is not, Ripple, you will never have a $10,000 Ripple coin, ever. So like investing in so one of the fundamental things is basically how many coins there are. And also you should make sure that these coins are like actually good and proper and all that. So the next question is, all right, what does this coin do? Because there are thousands of coins, and why do all these coins exist? And you should know, and one of the fundamental questions you should look at is, what is the thing trying to solve? Because because if you wanted a coin that just has value and wanted to transfer it somewhere else, there's Bitcoin, and there's Ethereum. But beyond Bitcoin, other coins exist, and you want to know why. Because they're trying to solve a problem such as, for example, there's a company that's putting out a coin so they can associate that with land, and then they can transfer that land to other people based on sending that coin that's associated with that land to somebody else. But does that really need a blockchain? Does that need a public blockchain? Does that really need a coin? Because along with these coins, there are transfer fees and other things like mining fees and incentives that are put there. And I personally believe that a currency or a global currency cannot exist where you're paying a fee to send money to somebody. If I hand $5 to somebody else, he should get $5. I should not, he shouldn't lose 1 cent in the process or anything like that. So yeah, some of the questions you should look at is a coin really necessary for this? Because there are other tokens like a company tried to put there's a company in East San Jose that's trying to put HIPAA records and health records on the public blockchain. That's insane. You shouldn't be putting public health records and confidential information on a public blockchain, because one, the blockchain is immutable, so that if your record's on there, it's there permanently and it's transparent and anyone can see it. So so at that point you have to question does the problem that they're trying to solve really need a coin or a public blockchain and things like that? So this is one of my favorite graphs here, because it shows favorite charts here, which is questions, is a blockchain really necessary? And most of the time it's not. So if you look at, is there a need for a shared common database? Then if yes, you move on. Are there multiple parties involved? Yes. Do these parties have conflicting incentives? And if only after about 6 or 7 of these steps, where you need an objective immutable log and all these things, then you need a blockchain. And even then, you don't need a public blockchain. You only need a private blockchain here, or a permission blockchain. So at that point, the use cases for a public blockchain really narrows down. But that doesn't mean there's no use cases at all. But no, I'm running out of time here. I have a really short talk, unfortunately. So I mean, when you look at a coin, one of the basic things you should ask yourself is, does it have a website? Because if they're trying to sell you something, they don't have a website, then there's a strange technical model here. And it should have something called a white paper. A white paper is a technical document that shows that outlines everything it does, and what the blockchain, and how the system works and why it works that way. And when you look at it, it should not have any marketing language. It should not have any you should be able to understand it from a layman's point of view. It should not be so complicated that you can't understand how this coin works or why this coin exists or anything like that. If that's the case, then that's a red flag you should watch out for when investing in a cryptocurrency. So, and how is a coin distributed? Because most of the time, there are multiple ways of distributing a coin. For example, mining, where anybody can participate, mine, and then get a coin. And there are ways that people can, sometimes a coin exists where all the coins are mined in the beginning, and then the company that made them distributes it out. So you should look at how the coins are distributed. For example, some of them are set for developers and marketing, and sometimes most of them are set aside for the public to directly share and things like that. And all these things factor into it, like how the coin has value and things like that. So, and you should look at a community. Does this coin have a community? Because in a decentralized peer-to-peer system, the participants make up the network, and the network has validity and all these things based on people supporting it. And if no one's really supporting it, then you're trusting whoever is hosting that blockchain or hosting that coin to actually give it value. And at that point, you're you're setting trust in that in a certain point entity, and that defeats the purpose of the cryptocurrency in the first place. So you should really look at that. And there are community hubs where you can go check, for example, Reddit, bitcointalk.org, which is one of the early stage or very early established known places where you can talk about cryptocurrency and things like that. And they should have a Slack channel and things like this. This is all just glass over. So, and when investing in cryptocurrency, and I'm sure you've seen it when this recent boom in cryptocurrencies and how everybody's getting into crypto and everybody's making millions and things like that. You should make sure you don't bring emotion into investing. This is a fundamental principle, whether it's stocks, cryptocurrencies, or anything like that. So you should know certain terms such as FOMO, which is fear of missing out. All your friends are buying a cryptocurrency, don't buy a cryptocurrency. And watch out for, they call it FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because when something starts going down, people will start panicking, people will start selling. And the general rule of thumb is, listen to Warren Buffett here, who said, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So don't buy it just because everything's at the top, because I'm sure some of you have, and I've seen people personally I know that have bought Bitcoin when it was about $20,000 and now are not very happy with themselves. So, and you should look at the team that's working on the cryptocurrency. Are they actively developing on it? Are they people who are qualified to work on something like this? Is their code open and public? Because a code because a cryptocurrency where where the code is not public is essentially a black box that you're putting money into and hoping that the same money comes back out. So that's very risky. So you should have a public, the code should be publicly auditable and things like that. And how often is the project being worked on actively, and how often are the contributions being made? And how does the team behave to questions and criticisms? When you ask them hey, you want to send land and you want to associate land with your token and then you want to send this token, or you want you're saying your currency is faster than Bitcoin or all these other currencies and it's much better. But why do we need you over somebody else? And if they can't handle that criticism, then that's or if they don't have a proper answer for something like that, then that's questionable. And beyond this, there's so many things I could cover, and this is such so surface level. So I thought I'd take questions and questions from beyond this point, because I'm sure all of you have specific things you want to ask, or if time allows, exactly.
Right. So we have time for maybe 2 questions. Any questions? Go ahead. Please, no, wait. Please come up. Come up. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, this is relating this to Mr. Mohan's presentation as well. He mentioned that in the Emirates, they're actually planning to incorporate, blockchain technology for biometrics. And I was wondering, would you consider that useful or necessary, or would that be something that's unnecessary?
Blockchain technology. Blockchain technology for biometrics is useful, but how do we get those biometrics, and how do we make sure that's unique onto the blockchain, and how letting people manage that is the questionable part here. So when someone says, okay, so this ID is tagged to me, how are you checking that? Is that with my fingerprint? Is it with my face? And all these things could change eventually. And how do we if I lose my for example, private key that's associated with my ID, how do I get that back if I don't have my fingerprint? And things like that. And I'm sure he can answer better than me.
Okay, you misinterpreted what I said. I actually didn't say that the biometrics is being managed through the blockchain necessarily. I was just saying the way you identify yourself would be via biometrics, and then whatever privileges you are eligible for would be on the blockchain, is the way I've interpreted what's going on in Dubai. But there are lots of identity schemes where people are trying to use use blockchain. And so identity is something that's often talked about as one of the applications of blockchain, and I haven't looked into it enough to say too many things about it, but there's know your customer and things like that is, for instance, another thing. But yeah, I mean, this problem exists even with regular biometrics, right? In India, a lot of the poor people for Aadhaar are not able to even give the fingerprint because they are people who use their hands a lot, so they can't even get the fingerprint. And even I had trouble as part of my U.S. citizenship thingy to get this fingerprint thing done very well. Not that I've used my hand that much, but so.
Yeah. Sorry, the one question from there. Yeah, the red shirt, correct.
Hi, I'm Subbu. Thanks for all the nice presentation. This is a question for all the speakers who have done so far. In general, it's a general question on blockchain. We know any software system is buggy. It's open source, the bugs get fixed as we go, so that's a continuum. So with the committed production code in the blockchain today, if in the future bugs get fixed, how are those reconciled? I'm a little unclear about when bugs get fixed and cut into production, what happens to the already existing transactions or the information that is held in the software system, and how subsequently they get addressed? That's my question. Thank you.
This is a great question, and one of the things about one of the properties of blockchain is that, or Bitcoin and all these things, it's a protocol. So like HTTP can be used to hack other computers and things like that, but HTTP itself cannot be hacked. So Bitcoin and like blockchain is a protocol of how like the database is structured and things like that. And beyond that, the database is immutable. So one of the like core properties is that you don't go back and erase data. As long as that is secure, or if you handle that on your end, however you implement that protocol, then you should be then your data that you sent the transaction there, it should always be there, essentially. And so even Bitcoin had bugs in the beginning where you could write code and execute scripts on Bitcoin and things like that. So what essentially happens is all the miners and all these participants in the network get together and say, we're going to update the coin from this point onwards. They're not going to go back and change the previous blocks and all that. They're saying from now on, the protocol, we're going to tweak it so it doesn't do that, or it fixes this bug, essentially.
What's your point of view on this on smart contracts?
Yeah, in fact, just like with traditional databases, you have this problem of schema evolution and so on. So even in the case, even not getting to your specific question, even with the smart contract, there can be versions of the smart contract. So that's already supported, actually. This is no different from a new version of your application program in a regular database application, right? The complication here is that, at least the way I described what the fabric is doing, that same contract is executing in multiple nodes in the endorsing peers. So you now need to make sure if there are multiple versions of that contract around, and also you don't want to stop the whole world to install a new version of the contract. So you have to ensure that for any given blockchain transaction, it's the same version that's picked in all the nodes where the smart contract is going to get executed. And with respect to what's in the blockchain, when you bring up a new node into the network, the way they initialize that new network, at least today, which in my opinion in the long run is nonsense, because they are starting from the very first, the Genesis block, and then they are going through all the blocks, essentially redoing those transactions. They are even computing which transaction should succeed, which should fail, that validation step I talked about. But there is no execution of the smart contract. It's like step 3 alone being executed by starting with an empty database and then from the beginning of the blockchain. As long as the interpretation of what's in that blockchain hasn't changed over time. There could, of course, be bugs even with respect to that. I'm not sure if that's currently being dealt with. But as long as the interpretation of the contents is not changing, you are fine. Even if the contracts that executed, that produced the right sets from some set of inputs, changes, that doesn't matter because this log, if you like, in the blockchain itself has the after effects of the determination done by running a smart contract. So it's only that that's going to be impacting how you initialize a new node. Or if an existing node goes down and comes back after a while, meanwhile many other transactions have happened, it has to catch up. even with respect to that, it's the same procedure that's being followed.
So the little follow-up question is that, would that elongate the release process as time progresses?
Well, he wants to get on with the next talk. In general, that's why I said this is not a workable thing over. The question was, does this elongate the whole process? Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying it's inefficient to do this, where whenever you bring a new node, you have to start from time zero and roll forward. I mean, this is a longer and longer amount of time that it will take to do that. So by the same token, the traditional database is if an app goes and screws up your database because there's a bug in the app, we deal with it by doing a backup copy before you install the new version of the app. And if something really bad happens, we restore to a point-in-time recovery, right? Now, people have asked for this. Of course, this is anathema to all these people who think it's all immutable and, once something happened, it shall stay there forever and all that. People are like, hey, this is all nice and dandy from a theoretical perspective, but I have to get my job done. And so this new version of the app was full of bugs and it screwed up a whole bunch of stuff, so I want to restore to an earlier point in time. So these are real practical things that are coming up as we go more and more into production and so on.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for